Hi guys, welcome to our daily encounter. In Job chapter 23, we have Job seeking the presence of God. And in the very first part, he kind of laments the hiddenness of God. That is, that he just doesn't see God. God seems to be hiding from him in a sense. If he goes to the right, God's not there. If he goes to the left, God's not there. And he was really seeking out God's presence, and not just for the sake of having God's presence, but so that he could present his case to God and basically plead his cause. And if he did that, he had confidence, and if he was able to do that, he had confidence that deliverance would come, that God would see that, yeah, Job is in the right, he's innocent, and that God would pull him out of the situation that he's in. However, he also recognizes the fact that ultimately God can do whatever he desires. And even if he was to plead a good case to the Lord, even if he could prove his innocence, at the end of the day, God is God. And he has the prerogative to do with Job whatever he desires. And as a result, he fears the presence of God. So we have at the beginning of the chapter a deep desire for the presence of God so that he can plead his case. And at the end, somewhat of a fear of the presence of God, because he recognized, again, the fact that God is powerful, he's sovereign, and that he has really the prerogative to do whatever he wishes. And so here you have really this whole speech, I guess you could call it, about the presence of God. Now, what we want to zero in on for the devotion today is this idea that God can ultimately do whatever he wants. And what's significant about that is the fact that Job had kind of reached that conclusion. This isn't the first time that he mentions this. And it was one of the things that kind of frustrated him, is that, he's now come to understand that God isn't one who can be put into a box. He's not one who is predictable, but a God who is far beyond his comprehension. And that kind of took away some of Job's confidence in going to the Lord. And this can help us to reflect on the fact that suffering oftentimes does give us an expanded view of God. Whenever we are serving the Lord, we're living a life loving the Lord and being obedient to the Lord, and our lives are running pretty smoothly. Not that we don't have problems, but typically our problems are just the normal problems, day-to-day problems that everyone kind of experiences. But overall, we're having a good time, and God is blessing us, and we're enjoying the blessings of God, and we're serving the Lord. Oftentimes we begin to put God in a box to think, okay, well, life is pretty simple. I obey God and I'm blessed. God is pretty predictable. God's going to be there for me. God's going to supply my needs. God's going to do this. God's going to protect me from these things. And as we live the good life, and as we are averted from suffering and difficulty, again, we begin to start to put God in this box. And we think of God as kind of like yes, he's powerful, but he's like a tame lion that is predictable, and we know exactly what he's going to do. But then tragedy takes place, and we encounter a crisis in our life. And all of a sudden, we enter into a state of chaos, to where life doesn't make sense anymore, where we don't feel blessed anymore. We feel like everything that we valued has been stripped away. And suddenly our view of God begins to change, because life is no longer simple like it used to be. And that's the effect that suffering has on us. And it can have a very negative effect on us, in that in some cases it causes people to walk away from the Lord, because what they find is a God that they didn't understand before. And all of a sudden they see God in a totally different way, and they don't like what they see, and so they leave. But it can also have a positive effect in the sense that it can expand our view of God. and recognize the fact that we can't put God in a box. We can't say, we can't view God as a tamed lion, but as a God, a sovereign God who has a will, a desire of his own, and whose ultimate plan will be worked out. And that can be very terrifying in some regards, but at the same time, it can be a very helpful thing in that it can put us in our proper place and keep God in his proper place when it comes to our lives. To where now we can shift gears and think in a different way in our relationship with God, to where God isn't a tame lion that does whatever we want him to do and serves us and serves our needs and tickles our fancy and all those types of things. But he is the sovereign Lord whom we must subject to and whom we must love and desire and be devoted to and follow after his will and his desire for our life. All the while trusting that, yes, he is wise. He knows what's best. His thoughts are higher than our thoughts. And he's trying to work out the ultimate good. But at the same time, we're submitting to that path, that plan that he has, knowing that he is the sovereign Lord. And so as we think about Job's suffering, and then when we think about it in the context of our own sufferings, we can see that sufferings oftentimes can lead us to an expanded view of God. Leaving the stage of, well, life is simple, I obey God, and then I'm blessed, and nothing bad ever happens to me, to realizing we're coming into contact with a God whose ways are way above our ways, whose thoughts are way above our thoughts, and who is ultimately in control. And at the end of the day, he has the right to say how things go. And we know that that's a good thing. And we should recognize that that's a good thing because he sees the big picture. And he knows how to get the best good out of certain situations, even though it might mean some suffering along the way. Good example of that would be Jesus Christ. He himself suffered immensely, but brought about the ultimate good, eternal salvation for all people. So even if we're not suffering, even if we're not going through a difficult time, we can conscientiously begin to view God in this way. He is God and we are not. We can be still and know that he is God, that he is in control, and that we will submit to him and his desires for our life, trusting all the while that his heart is good, that he has good intentions, and that his intention is to bring about the best good to the most people. So with that, guys, I do thank you for watching the video today. Hope you guys have a great day. Love you guys. God bless.